The galaxy watched in silence. Every world within the Carthan Dominion, 1,000 systems united under a banner of silver flame, received the same transmission: a human, bound to a steel pillar, under the amber haze of an alien sky. His name was Ambassador Daniel Holt, United Terran Federation. A man known for his restraint, his ability to turn wars into trade routes, and enemies into partners. He was humanity's voice among the stars. And now, his voice was gone. The Carthan executioners stood tall avianoid figures draped in imperial regalia, their talons gripping ceremonial blades carved from moonsilver. The Empire's High Consul read out charges in a tone of regal contempt. Humanity violated Article 13 of galactic sovereignty by refusing inspection of their warfleet. The penalty is death. The human ambassador, battered but unbroken, raised his head toward the hovering broadcast drones. "Humanity does not kneel," he said. They cut his throat. The feed was meant to humiliate. To remind the galaxy who ruled. Instead, it woke something far older than the Dominion had ever faced, an ancient human instinct that had slept beneath centuries of peace. The transmission reached Earth 8 minutes later. By the 9th, the President ordered a black-level emergency summit. By the 10th, the stars trembled. Earth's orbit was lined with fire. From the surface, the night sky shimmered with streaks of light, warships leaving for the void. They weren't poetic arcs, they were declarations. The Terran Vanguard, Atlas Fleet, and the Luna Strategic Command all mobilized under a single, grim order. Operation Black Halo. In the Situation Room beneath Geneva, the air was cold and still. Holographic stars floated above the central table, red clusters marking Dominion strongholds, blue for Terran fleets. The room was filled with the hum of high command officers and diplomats, their faces tight with disbelief. President Eleanor Reeves stood at the head of the table. A veteran of the Sol conflict, she was not easily rattled. But the image of Daniel Holt's death replayed in every briefing, every newsfeed, every human mind. "Madam President," said Admiral Marcus Kane, commander of the Terran Vanguard. "The Dominion wants submission. They think fear will slow us down." Reeves didn't blink. "It won't." Across from her, Dr. Nathan Voss, chief diplomatic analyst, spoke softly. "We need to be sure. If we retaliate with full force, we could fracture the Galactic Council. The neutrals will side with whoever looks like the aggressor." Kane leaned forward, his jaw clenched. "Ambassador Holt was executed without trial. That's not aggression. That's an act of war." Silence. President Reeves exhaled slowly. "Then we act like it." She turned to the holographic display and touched the Dominion's core, an empire spanning the Perseus arm, its capital burning bright with arrogance. "Find me where the order came from," Reeves said. "The man or thing that signed Holt's death warrant. I want a name." The first to answer was an intelligence officer from the outer colonies, a quiet woman with silver implants tracing her temples. The directive originated from Voth Prime, seat of the High Consul. Source: internal Dominion traffic, confirmed by quantum intercept. The room stiffened. Voth Prime. The Imperial Crown World. A storm was coming. 3 days later, the TNS Resolute entered Dominion space under full stealth. Its crew was silent, the only sound the low hum of the quantum drive. Captain Sarah Delane, 32 years old, former Marine pilot turned covert operative, stood at the viewport watching the faint glow of a foreign sun. Beside her, Lieutenant Alex Mercer broke the silence. "You really think we can hit the consul himself?" Delane didn't answer immediately. She pressed a command on her wristpad, and the holographic layout of Voth Prime appeared ringed with defense grids, orbital bastions, and a network of ships that could erase entire planets. "We're not going to hit him," she said finally. "We're going to show him." The Dominion, meanwhile, laughed. To the High Consul, humanity was a species of impulsive primates who had gotten lucky with technology. Their systems were rich in resources but fractured by politics. Their fleets large, yes, but young, undisciplined, and slow to coordinate. When Holt died, the consul had not feared reprisal. He expected outrage. He expected noise. He did not expect silence. Because silence, in human history, meant movement. 6 days after the execution, the first Dominion ship went dark. It was a supply carrier orbiting Drax Sigma, lost contact without distress call or explosion. 2 hours later, another vanished near the Argos line. Then a third. Every disappearance occurred near trade arteries, every one with human patrols coincidentally nearby. The consul's advisors urged caution. He dismissed them. Until, on the 7th day, the Terran Federation broadcast a message to the entire galactic network. It wasn't defiant or dramatic. It was terrifyingly calm. President Reeves appeared, standing before the blue and white flag of the Federation. To the Dominion and its allies. You executed a man who came in peace. You mistook restraint for weakness. You will learn what humanity does when peace is taken from it. The feed ended. A moment later, Dominion long-range sensors detected a gravitational ripple at the edge of the Perseus arm. Then another. Then 46 more. Each signature corresponded to a Terran dreadnought entering warp space. Operation Black Halo had begun. On board the Resolute, Captain Delane watched as the first strike fleet tore through Dominion listening posts with surgical precision. No civilians, no collateral damage. Just clean, clinical removal of command and control infrastructure. Message from Vanguard Command, Mercer said. Phase 2 authorized. Delane nodded. Execute the Veil. Her ship's AI shimmered to life. Cloak deployed. Quantum signature masked. We are ghosts. She leaned closer to the viewport, eyes narrowing on the distant glow of Voth Prime. For Daniel Holt, she whispered. The High Consul's throne chamber was built to impress lesser species. Columns of black obsidian lined the walls, carved with the victories of the Carthan Dominion's millennia-long rule. The vaulted ceiling shimmered with holograms of past emperors, their eyes forever burning down at those who entered. But on that day, the throne room no longer felt divine. It felt small. High Consul Varen Karth, eldest of the Dominion line, stared at the display hovering before his dais. Entire sectors glowed red, not from rebellion, but from absence. Ships gone silent. Outposts erased. Fleets reduced to ghosts in the dark. Where is my armada? His voice cracked through the chamber. Advisors shifted uneasily. The consul's talons scraped against his gilded throne. General Trakesh, commander of the Imperial Guard, stepped forward. Your Eminence, our relays on the Vexen Fringe were neutralized last night. We have no communication with the outer rims. Whatever they're using. Who are they using? The consul interrupted, his wings flaring in irritation. Humans don't have the infrastructure for this. They're ants with engines. The general hesitated. Perhaps, but these ants are. Learning, said a new voice. It came from the chamber's rear doors. Every guard in the hall turned, weapons half raised. The figure who entered was thin, wrapped in a long cloak of violet silk. Envoy Severin, liaison to the Galactic Council. He bowed shallowly, not from respect, but from survival. Your Eminence, Severin said. The Council demands an explanation for the attacks. Half the Outer Alliance has frozen trade with the Dominion until this is resolved. Varen's nostrils flared. Resolved? Humanity executed one of their own. What's left to resolve? Severin's eyes flickered. They see it differently. They've declared Holt's execution an act of genocide. The chamber fell silent. Even the guards seemed to shrink. Meanwhile, Terran Vanguard Command, high orbit over Titan. Admiral Marcus Kane stood before a wall of transparent alloy, watching the twin storms of Saturn twist below. The command center was a cathedral of light, dozens of officers coordinating fleets, data streams, and communications through silent gestures. Every ship moved as if choreographed, every attack executed with unerring precision. Report, Kane said. 12 Dominion fleets neutralized, came the reply from his operations chief, Commander Alina Park. We're avoiding civilian systems as ordered. Dominion propaganda channels are collapsing, they can't sustain the illusion of control. Kane nodded, his voice low. And the console? Still hiding on Voth Prime, Park said. But internal chatter indicates unrest among his generals. They're turning on one another. Kane allowed himself a rare, grim smile. Good. Let them eat themselves while we tighten the noose. Voth Prime, 7 hours later. Riots broke out in the lower spires. The Dominion had ruled by fear for centuries, but fear only worked when the Empire appeared invincible. Now, broadcasts from Terran forces flooded the underground networks, not of death, but precision. Videos showed Terran strike teams disabling orbital cannons without firing a shot, Dominion officers surrendering, and civilians left unharmed. The message was clear: humanity wasn't coming to conquer. They were coming to correct. For the first time, Carthan citizens whispered the unthinkable, that the Dominion might fall. In the Imperial War Room, the consul's composure finally cracked. Deploy the planetary shields, he roared. Lock down every port, every gate, every. Already done, sir, General Trakesh interrupted. But the shields won't hold if they breach the relay core. The humans. A sharp alarm cut him off. One of the aides shouted, quantum signature detected. Multiple. Orbit entry, sector north of capital airspace. The consul's eyes widened. They're here. The Dominion fleet scrambled. Gunships screamed through the upper atmosphere, defense grids powered to full charge. Plasma batteries turned the skies into white fire. And yet, none of it mattered. The humans didn't invade. They appeared. The TNS Resolute and 2 escort ships emerged from Quantum Veil, cloaked until the last moment. Within seconds, they unleashed EMP warheads that blanketed the capital in silent blue waves. The city's energy grid flickered, then died. Voth Prime went dark. In the command bay of the Resolute, Captain Sarah Delane stood surrounded by ghostly blue displays. Her crew worked in total focus, no chatter, no wasted motion. Targeting beacon locked, Lieutenant Mercer said. Consul's palace confirmed. We can vaporize the entire structure. Delane hesitated. She looked at the hollow image of the palace, vast, beautiful, and ancient. Inside it, billions watched the sky, unaware what would happen next. No, she said finally. Not like this. We take him alive. Mercer frowned. Admiral Kane won't like that. He'll understand, Delane replied. We're not here for revenge. We're here for justice. Inside the palace. The consul fled through gilded corridors, his wings dragging torn silk banners behind him. His guards fell one by one, not by human fire, but by disorientation. The Resolute's drones moved silently through the halls, releasing gas that induced paralysis without bloodshed. By the time Delane entered the throne room, it was over. Varen Karth was on his knees, trembling. His ceremonial armor was cracked, his crown dented. You dare enter the chamber of an emperor, he hissed, voice trembling between rage and terror. Delane holstered her sidearm and stepped closer. You executed a diplomat under truce. You broadcasted across the stars. You wanted to humiliate us. Karth spat, you are animals. You don't belong among the stars. Delane's expression didn't change. Maybe. But we learn faster than you thought. She tapped her wrist pad. The hologram of President Reeves flickered into existence, projected in the air beside them. High Consul Varen Karth, Reeves said, her tone steady and cold. By authority of the United Terran Federation, you are under arrest for crimes against sentient life, unlawful execution of an accredited ambassador, and instigation of interstellar war. Karth stared at the hologram in disbelief. You think you can try me? Reeves' gaze hardened. No. The galaxy will. As Delane's team secured the console, Mercer approached. Transmission from Titan Command. The Dominion fleet is in chaos. They're asking for terms. Delane nodded. Patch them through. Moments later, dozens of Dominion commanders appeared in fragmented holograms. Fear was in their eyes, but so was something else. Relief. Human, one of them said, we do not wish to die for a broken emperor. Delane's jaw tightened. Then stand down. Surrender your fleets. The war ends today. Later, Titan orbit. Admiral Kane received the report with silent satisfaction. The consul was captured. The Dominion fleets were defecting faster than command could track. President Reeves stood beside him, watching the data feeds with quiet disbelief. History won't believe how fast this happened, she said. Kane's voice was steady, but low. That's the difference between empires and humans, Madam President. Empires rule by fear. He turned toward the stars, where distant flashes marked the end of the last battles. We fight for memory. Back on Voth Prime, the Dominion's banners were lowered. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the empire that had ruled for millennia stood without a ruler. And in the silence that followed, as reconstruction teams landed and negotiations began, the galaxy realized something profound. The humans hadn't destroyed the Dominion. They'd simply removed its crown. The galaxy gathered to witness judgment. The Galactic Council Station, a colossal citadel suspended above the glowing storms of Nabaris IV, had never seen such a crowd. Every corridor thrummed with the steps of diplomats, soldiers, and envoys from 100 worlds. The air was heavy with static and history. For the first time in millennia, the High Consul's seat was empty. And beside it stood humanity. President Eleanor Reeves walked slowly through the Grand Hall, flanked by Admiral Marcus Kane and Captain Sarah Delane. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were shadowed with the weight of what came next. Holocameras followed every step, broadcasting her image to billions across the stars. The tribunal dais loomed ahead, 3 thrones for judgment, one of which bore the sigil of Earth. Reeves took her place upon it. The human emblem, a stylized globe of blue and silver, reflected across the chamber walls, blending with the alien glyphs of older civilizations. It did not look foreign. It looked inevitable. Below the dais, bound in gravitic restraints, knelt Varen Karth. The once mighty ruler of the Dominion was almost unrecognizable. His ceremonial armor had been replaced by a containment harness, his wings bound beneath metallic clamps. His eyes still burned with hatred, but behind them flickered confusion. How had the prey become the judge? When the hall fell silent, President Reeves spoke. High Consul of the Dominion, she began, her voice carrying through the vast hall, you stand accused of the unlawful execution of Ambassador Daniel Holt, the murder of diplomatic personnel, and the orchestration of war crimes against civilian populations across 3 sectors. Karth hissed softly, you have no right to judge me. Reeves didn't flinch. You're correct. Humanity does not claim that right alone. The Council will decide your fate. But you will answer for what you've done. The trial began. Witnesses from across the stars took the stand, Dominion defectors, captured officers, and even civilians who had survived the Empire's conquests. Their testimonies painted a tapestry of arrogance and cruelty. For every world subjugated, the Dominion had carved a monument to fear. For every resistance, they had written silence. And for centuries, the galaxy had looked away. Until humanity arrived. When Reeves presented the footage of Ambassador Holt's execution, the hall went still. Even Karth's own aides lowered their eyes. The moment replayed in chilling clarity, Holt's final defiance, his words echoing like prophecy. Humanity does not kneel. Karth sneered. He was a fool. He died screaming. Reeves leaned forward. No, Consul. He died speaking. And the galaxy heard him. When the proceedings ended, the Council withdrew to deliberate. Hours passed. Outside the chamber, diplomats whispered of the impossible, a galaxy that might, for the first time, operate without fear. Captain Delane stood by one of the observation decks, looking out over the endless swirl of Nabaris clouds. Admiral Kane joined her, silent for a long while. You ever think we'd be here? She asked quietly. Kane shook his head. No. I thought we'd die long before humanity ever saw a seat on that council. Delane gave a faint smile. We didn't conquer them. We just showed them who we were. Sometimes, Kane said, that's enough. The verdict. The council reconvened under a storm of anticipation. When Reeves entered the chamber again, she carried with her a quiet gravity. The lead arbiter, a crystalline being from the Vexery Collective, spoke first. Its voice was melodic, each syllable resonating through the walls. By unanimous decision of the Galactic Council, the Dominion is hereby dissolved. Its territories shall enter provisional administration under the United Terran Federation until stable governments may be formed. High Consul Varen Karth is sentenced to permanent exile on an uninhabited world, his name and lineage stricken from history. The hall erupted in sound, shock, disbelief, relief. Centuries of fear shattered in a single decree. Varen Karth struggled against his restraints, eyes wild. You can't erase me. I am the Dominion. Reeves looked down at him, her voice quiet but sharp as steel. No, Varen. You were its rot. With a gesture, security drones activated, and the fallen consul was taken away. His screams echoed through the chamber, then faded into silence. The transition. Weeks later, the Dominion's banners were lowered across its 1,000 worlds. Terran envoys oversaw the rebuilding of governments, not as conquerors, but as architects of a fragile new peace. Where once the Dominion soldiers had marched, now humanitarian convoys delivered medicine and food. The sight of Terran ships no longer brought fear, it brought order. Admiral Kane found himself stationed on Voth Prime, now renamed Holt's Rest. The former palace had been converted into a memorial, its obsidian walls etched with a single inscription. For Daniel Holt, who spoke when silence was safer. Captain Delane often visited the site. She would stand beneath the inscription, eyes lifted to the sky, and wonder if Holt had known what his death would ignite. Humanity had not sought to rule, but the galaxy had crowned them all the same. Earth, 6 months later. The night was quiet over Geneva. President Reeves stood on the balcony of the Federation Tower, watching the auroras ripple through the sky. Below her, the city pulsed with life, scientists, diplomats, families, all rebuilding, all believing. A soft chime sounded behind her. Madam President, came the voice of Dr. Nathan Voss. Transmission from the Council. They've ratified the Terran Accord. Humanity is now officially the central chair of the new Galactic Coalition. Reeves nodded slowly, her reflection faint in the glass. We didn't ask for the crown, she murmured. Voss stepped beside her. No. But you earned it. She looked up at the stars, so many of them still scarred by war, yet gleaming with possibility. Let's make sure we wear it better than the last ones did. Far beyond Earth, on a quiet world untouched by trade or politics, an exile lived alone among the ruins of his former pride. Varen Karth, the last consul of the Dominion, spent his days in silence, staring up at unfamiliar constellations. Once, he had believed humanity to be fragile. Now, he understood the truth too late. Humanity's strength had never been in fleets or weapons. It was in the one thing empires could never master, unity born of loss. A single ship drifted through the void beyond the old Dominion border, the TNS Ambassador Holt. Its hull gleamed white against the endless dark, carrying a new envoy toward a distant, uncontacted civilization. Inside, a young diplomat adjusted his uniform and stared at a small plaque on the wall bearing Holt's final words. Humanity does not kneel. He smiled softly and whispered, No, sir. We don't. Not anymore. As the ship vanished into the blue shimmer of faster-than-light travel, the galaxy turned quietly beneath it, no longer ruled by fear, but by the species that had once been dismissed as primitive. Humanity had not conquered the stars. They had earned them.